We have a fire in Herm Johnson's pit. It started when he was fueling and it spread behind the wall.
Johnson was in for a regular refuel, and then suddenly the car burst into flame, and now they have a fire that is burning all around the fuel tank in Herm Johnson's pit. We had some crew members suffering some slight injury. We don't have any indication as to their injury. It did not look as if Johnson was injured, but look at this tremendous fire as the entire pit goes up. They have been trying to fight it now for almost a minute. There was an explosion. An explosion as one of the tanks went. Apparently Herm Johnson's tank let go at the front. Now most of the people moved away, but an explosion in the pits as Herm Johnson's tank did catch fire and a tire let go. We don't know if the explosion was the result of a tire or is the tank. The tank looks to be intact. They have done everything they can to keep the fire from spreading. The scoring stand is what is actually showing the most fire, though you can't see an alcohol fire, and there is no telling where else there might be fire burning. That white smoke that you're seeing is the purple K powder that they use to fight the fire.
And in reality, it smothers the fire, draws the oxygen out, and this is something that they've always been afraid of wherever championship cars run.
Now they have closed the pits as a result of this fire. The pits are completely blocked. The cars will have to stay on the course. That brings the question, if I didn't bring my car in for a stop, what happens to me if I run out of fuel on the racetrack? I can't get to my pit. They continue to fight this fire. This has been what they have been afraid of in all of IndyCar racing for so long. A major fire in the pits. They're now bringing in heavy apparatus, big fire trucks coming in. Let's go down to Bruce Jenner, who's on the scene.
Down here in the pits right now, pandemonium has just broke out. It looks like his pit has completely gone up, and the fire tanks, and the tanks are on fire right now. They're trying to put it out. They've got about 4 or 5 units, a lot of people working around there, but it's a lot of pandemonium. Everybody's just sort of clearing out of the area and trying to see what happens. But right now, it's a terrible sight from down here. Charlie?
All right, Bruce, it seems as if they may have it a little under control, but it is still burning. Let's go back moments ago to how it started. Now let's go down to Gary.
Here's Herm Johnson. Herm, I know you're walking in to get some emergency attention. Any idea what happened on that stop?
I just saw a fuel spill and it flared up and it was just burning. And
we got to go, Gary.
We got a couple a lot hurt worse than me.
Sorry.
All right, thank you, Herm Johnson. They're taking him in for some emergency aid at this point. He seems to be all right. He has some superficial burns, it would appear, around the face. He'll get some emergency treatment here, and we'll try to update the information, of course, as it's available.
You see here now the replay of that fire. That is his refueler. After the fire at Indianapolis, several of the crews bought new helmets to try and prevent the crew members from being burned in case this happened in a refuel. Apparently, it did some good, though obviously by the way he was jumping around, he was suffering from the heat, probably being burned to a small degree. I want to be very careful, Charlie, not to alarm anyone until we know exactly what happened. The red flag is about to be displayed at Michigan International Speedway. The red flag is out. They are stopping this race. This will change the strategies of everybody drastically.
So here's the situation. We have officially 29 laps complete of 250 laps at the Michigan 500. So we'll take a timeout, and we'll be back here to pick up the race, which is currently under the red flag. We'll be back in a moment.
We're back at Michigan International Speedway, where we have had a tremendous fire in the pits. It started when Herm Johnson's car caught fire during refueling. It spread rapidly to the tank that refuels Herm Johnson's car and then spread up and down the pit area. We had a loud report, a blast from the pits that for a moment we thought was a tank going up. It turned out instead to be a tire exploding, was our latest report. But you can see the tank actually moved a bit as part of the hose caught fire and then exploded. Fortunately, there is a safety shutoff valve between the hose and the front of the tank, so the tank still has its integrity. But we have had injuries here. We have stopped the race. We have closed off the pit area, and they have several individuals who have been injured as a result of this. At least one was the refueler from Herm Johnson's machine.
And in addition, the fire has spread up and down the pits as far as 4 or 5 pits away. Some of the crew members have caught fire and then have been put out, had the fire put out around them. Now let's go down to Bruce Jenner. Bruce?
Charlie, Johnny Rutherford is with me, and Johnny, this is something you don't like to see in racing.
No, you really don't. Of course, it's especially in the pits where there are so many people confined and gathered, it makes it a little tough, and you wonder where it is immediately. My thoughts were to my pit and Betty and what might be going on there, but they were far enough away. Jim Hall, the owner, told me that they weren't in any danger. But it's really a shame, and I think it's time we really had an inquiry into
Do you think they should look in to see if they can do something about this?
Yes, definitely.
Because I was down there at the pits, and it looked like when they were pulling the fueler off, a lot like what happened to Mears, the gas spread all over, and then they were in trouble, and it spread on the ground and spread everywhere, and it started going from one pit to the next.
Yes, and that's a problem. We obviously have got to look at the way we refuel these cars and make them better.
All right, how was it out there on the track?
Well, it's a little slippery.
We had a few spin-outs in the first few laps.
Yes, I think the guys were caught unawares, and my car wasn't handling like it was even yesterday in practice, so we're working on it, and I think we'll be right when we restart.
All right, well, everything seems to be, the fire's out from right now from what we can see. They're still trying to cool down the gas tanks. Let's go back up to Charlie.
All right, thank you, Bruce. The Michigan 500 has been stopped at this point in time due to the fire in the pits that started when Herm Johnson came into the pits, got loose from him, spread through 3 or 4 pits.
They have now brought in a regular large fire truck which has laid out hoses all the way through. There you see the white and red fire apparatus. Both of them are pumpers capable of delivering thousands of gallons per minute of water. They have a number of lines now laid out to the pit area. The fire is out, but what they are doing now is trying to cool these fuel tanks. They picked up tremendous heat during that fire, which probably spread 30 or 40 feet in either direction of Herm's pit, and now they have to try and cool those tanks down. You can see them just pouring water over the fuel tanks. Then they'll have to clean up the pit area. There is fire extinguisher powder all over the place as there is water, and then they will have to bring the field in and line them up. Here is the order that they will line them up in. Charlie?
The standings officially through lap 29, Tom Sneva, Rutherford, Mosley, Bobby Unser, and then Mears. Now, we will be back to cover this story. We'll stay Michigan 500, where after 29 laps, the race has been stopped. Red flag due to a fire in the pits of Herm Johnson that then spread over 3 or 4 pits. Several crew members have been injured. We will have a report for you on that as soon as we get it. And this is what happened. This was about 5 or 7 minutes ago. And remember that this fuel, once it catches fire, you cannot see it. So it is very dangerous from that standpoint. You simply cannot see this fuel when it is burning.
That's the thing that everybody worries about on an alcohol fire. It's not visible. It can be very dangerous because it's not. These crewmen run back and forth while they're on fire. Could possibly set fire to something else.
All right, now let's go down to Gary Gerald. Gary?
Obviously very hectic down here at the infield track hospital. At the track hospital, a tremendous amount of activity. Mike Knight has been checking on injuries. Mike, can you give us an update here in the early minutes?
Yes, driver Herm Johnson has minor facial burns. He's being treated in the track hospital right now. One of his crew members, Greg Nelson, is being treated for 1st and 2nd degree burns of the feet. A member of the Penske pit crew has been in with a lacerated leg. He's been released. Steve Edwards, the director of safety, received some burns to his feet. He's being treated right now. There are a few more people who are going to be brought in, but they are all injuries of a minor nature, minor burns, and people who are going to receive some oxygen.
Okay, Michael, thank you very much. We appreciate the cooperation on this, and we would update the fact that 3 support standby fire departments have responded after the call from the infield safety crew here. They were pouring 4,000 gallons a minute of water on the tanks in an effort to cool them. There was, we could see, a lot of devastation of pit equipment, but certainly this first report is very encouraging at this time. And Mike, as we're standing here, we're wondering, do you have any indication if this race will be restarted?
It will be. The technical crew of CART is already in the process of making the preparations to restart the race. As soon as the situation in the pits allows us to restart, we will.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go back upstairs.
All right, thank you, Gary, for that report. Now, it is at times like this, the first person you think of course, the wife of the driver, the wives of the crewmen. One of the best known is Betty Rutherford, the wife of Johnny Rutherford, and Paul Page had a chance to visit with Betty Rutherford.
Oh, brother, if you're on your own, dedicate your heart. Girl, if you're out there.
think your first comment was this has really been a tough year for racing.
Well, what I meant was the tough year for fires in racing. I can't give you answers for it all happening. I can't give you reasons for Indianapolis happening like it did. We're really safer than we've ever been for fire. It's just we're in an era of having fire problems, and thank God nobody's getting hurt too bad, but it's beyond my words to explain it. I couldn't even give you a good explanation for this. I mean, it's the second time for poor Herm Johnson. He had a problem at Milwaukee, and then another problem today, and lo and behold, at Milwaukee, he was just almost next door to our pit.
Right.
And then again here, he was right next door to us, and I just don't know. It shouldn't happen. We shouldn't have these fires. We're plenty safe, but I guess we are having them.
At this point now, they've said that you're going to be restarting this race. It's got to be awful tough, I think, to get your mind back to racing, which is going to be coming up here in the next who knows how many minutes.
No problems there. The drivers that run this race are pros. That won't bother them. The things that bother is, like, my pit was right next to his, and I got a lot of things that are burned.
Okay.
And I'm going to be short some items.
Right.
But we'll borrow some and makeshift, and now it looks like we'll get by all right. But for a while, it looked like it was really desperate, like we were possibly even going to have to pull out of the race because lack of things to run with, like tires, like wheels.
Appreciate your comments, Bobby. We'll let you get back to the crew. Right now, we're going to switch to Bruce Jenner.
Gary, just a few minutes ago, this pit was ready to service a race car, and right now it's completely destroyed. And with me is John Menard. Now, John, you were on the right front tire when it went up.
That's right.
Do you know exactly what happened?
Well, I just stopped the car. I looked up. They were fueling the car. I started back around to check the left front tire. I saw Greg pull the hose back out of the car that fills the car. The thing that automatically closes the fuel valve stuck, and the fuel started going all over. I knew it was going to happen, and I started for the water pail that's in the pit. And by the time I got to the water pail, it was burning already. I started back over the wall and threw it at the driver and at Greg. And by that time, the fire extinguisher started going off. And it was just...
Do you know the conditions of any other pit crews?
As far as I know, our crew chief, Dan Coda's got a slight burn on one hand. Greg, the fellow that was doing the fueling's feet are fairly badly burned. And our driver, Herm, has got facial burns. And one other fellow's got the hair burned off his hand, but not seriously.
But nobody's seriously injured?
Nobody's really seriously injured. Greg has the most serious injuries on his feet. They were spraying the fire foam on his chest and head, thinking that was on fire, and it was feet he was burning. And it was just unfortunate that nobody got to him right away. Otherwise, I think he would have been...
It's the second time for you guys. That makes it difficult.
Second time, and we really didn't need
Get a little gun shy.
Yes, sir.
I don't blame you. All right, let's go back up to Charlie.
All right, thank you, Bruce. It was just not quite an hour ago that the race started, and one of